Greetings and welcome to an Em8er video. Today we are going to be talking about the light frame that was just revealed on the 27th of April on 2021. And yeah, we're going to take a look at it, see what I think of it, see if we like it or not, and see if it's got any problems, which I think it does. So anyway, let's get to it. Now, as you can see here, this is the light frame, and as it has been told to us by Grumps and the rest of the dev team, there are basically two rules that the light frames, no matter what configuration or skin you're using, have to follow. And that is, it is extremely mobile, and the pilot is completely exposed. Those are the two basic rules for the light frame. And when you compare it to the rest of the frames, it kind of makes sense. It's one of the extremes, while we've got the medium frame in the middle, and the heavy frame on the complete opposite. But yeah, other than that, we can pretty much do anything we want with the frame, so let's take a look at it and see what we do like about it, shall we? So let's start with what we do like about it. It is clearly extremely mobile, very agile. It definitely shows off the character as is per the requirements. It is still missing a couple things, but we'll get into that in a little bit. And the possibilities for the arm units are without a doubt infinite, because as you can see, we've got just two blatant examples right there of what we can do. We've got the absolute basic frame, and then we've got a couple of things latched onto it that you can actually see there. But the other good news is that because it is so small and because it is actually latched onto the pilot itself, then the pilot's reactions will make this work a lot quicker. There's no lag between inputting commands and the whole mech moving around, so they'll definitely have very quick reactions with no lag to them. And I kind of like the thrusters back here, although they are taking up a slot over here that I kind of like. Well, I would like for something else. The legs do definitely look good. They are definitely basic. What's it called? They are very reminiscent of the medium frame and of the medium frame legs. So you can definitely feel that the current concept art for all three of them come from the same company, which is something that they're doing in the game. There's going to be 4 different companies or manufacturers for frames that you can buy from. And yeah, all in all, it doesn't look bad at all. Although there are a few things that I would change. So what don't I like about it? Well, the main thing I don't like about it is the lack of additional weaponry. And while the light frame is supposed to focus on melee combat, you can't really ask something the size of a human that is designed to punch things to go up to a prime kaiju and start, tickling its toes. That's just not particularly fun. And also, if you're fighting a bunch of flying enemies, then this becomes a little even more problematic. Now, you might say that it shouldn't be too bad if you have a lock-on system like in the Dragon Ball games, the Xenoverse version of them, where you lock on and then you can dash up to them. But dashing up to a whole lot of enemies, probably not a good idea. The other thing I don't like about it is that the pilot, as you can see over here on the top right, is holding the entire weight of the entire arm unit on their own, arms, essentially. And that is something I don't particularly like. That over here on the lower left, we can see that if she blocks something like that and it impacts her, her arm is taking the entire brunt of that impact. And then it's going to bend and possibly hit her as well. So that is something that I don't particularly like. Another point that I particularly don't like is that it has been mentioned to us that pilots in this light frame will be able to, essentially use humanoid-sized weapons to fight the Sihu. Unfortunately, to me, that doesn't seem like a particularly good idea, because the Sihu, from what we've learned so far, or what we've been told so far, are essentially the size of medium frames. And if you compare the light frame in size to the medium frame, you can see that the size difference is quite substantial. A Sihu will probably be about 40 to 50% larger than the light frame. So that's something that is why I don't think humanoid-sized weapons used by the pilot's physical body are a good idea here. Then another part that I don't particularly like is the part that joins the leg and the torso. Back here on the top left, we can see this kind of belt thing that then goes into the spinal cord thing that links onto the pack on the back. I believe that's a little too on the thin side. Now, this is relatively easy to fix, because all I would do is over here right next to it, this red area right here, I would make that into a little bit of reinforcement. Maybe just make it look the same style as the spinal connector here, and just cover this entire red area with those, and that would easily solve that problem. It's a little gripe of mine. and that would be it. And then the last thing I mentioned earlier is that it has no side boosters. Now, one of the reasons I believe that is a big thing here is because this is supposed to be the most mobile and agile frame of the three. And one of the things that you do when something is very mobile is sidestepping and dodging. And dodging without any type of side booster on any mech or something around those lines really is not very conducive to very quick and agile gameplay. So those are the problems I currently have with this concept. Now, I did think a couple solutions for them, so let's go take a look at those. So let's deal with the gripes I have with this unit one at a time. First, the lack of additional weapons. So how do we solve this problem? Well, the way I would personally solve it is, well, solve this problem and the fact that humanoid-sized weapons probably lack in firepower when fighting Kaiju and Zihu, is that I would give the light frame access to some, well, bigger-sized weaponry that is used by these clearly limbo hands that the pilot is wearing. That on one side would solve the issue of lack of firepower. The only problem that we have there is that we have nowhere to put them. Over here on the top right, we see these two little hard points on the back of the pack unit, but unfortunately they are clearly there to hold onto the thrusters. So where would we store these weapons when we're not using them? Well, let's take a look and see. We have possibility over here on the legs. That's something. We could put something on in between the thrusters. That could be another place. Or we could borrow the idea here from these arm units where, let's see, they just hold on to it and then the arm units just spin around. So the bladed side here or whatever the other thing is exposed to the front and the weapon is held in the back. That could be another possibility. But that is what I would do for the lack of firepower and the lack of additional weapons. Now, the other big gripe I had with it was the fact that it seemed like the pilot, as we can see here, is bearing the entire weight of the arm units on her own arm, which really is not something that would ever be approved. Now, we could just dismiss that as maybe there's some anti-grav technology here, or maybe these arm units that are covering her actual arms are a lot stronger than they seem, but it just doesn't seem right to me. So what would I do? Well, if we go over to the top right here, what I would do is I would grab this connector right over here, which is what links it to her forearm, and I would just latch that onto the shoulder. That would, in my opinion, solve that problem completely. Not only do you have a bigger piece of metal that is latched onto here, but this shoulder piece clearly goes straight into the pack, and that means that anything that impacts the arm unit transfers that energy onto the frame itself and not onto the pilot's body, which is something you want to avoid. And then if we follow that up with what I mentioned earlier of filling up this red sight area of the pilot's suit with some more extra reinforcements and flexible ribbing, then we're talking with the entire frame holding up the entire weight of the arm unit, and now the pilot is not carrying anything on her own, which is something that actually current military mech suits are actually trying to do themselves. And thinking logically, it makes sense that that's how things should be. The pilot should not in any way have to bear the weight of anything if it can be avoided. And if we have frames like this in the future, then yeah, that would absolutely be the way to go. And those are just the small ways I would fix it. The last one we're missing here is the lateral thruster that I mentioned. Now, thinking logically, we want it to be somewhere on the main body so that everything moves quickly. So, because if we put it on an arm unit here, like we mentioned, might be done earlier, then that just moves the arm. It doesn't move the entire frame. So that would mean that we would have to place it either on the shoulders or maybe somewhere on the legs or on the torso. So that's something that I would look into. With this current design, the legs aren't really doing much. Well, they do hold the extra thrusters for extra lift. There could be something on the side, but that will just swing the legs and make you spin around. So they definitely need to be lashed onto somewhere on the torso itself in order to be effective. The shoulder definitely seems to be the best place. And these little flappy things on the shoulders that are clearly there to bend upwards when the pilot arms move, as you can see over here and the one where she's saluting over there. If we replace those with just some boosters that are always aiming slightly to the side so she can quickly launch, I think that would solve that problem. And lastly, let's talk about the aesthetics of this unit. So how does it look? Well, I kind of like it. Now, some people may not like the design of the suit that the pilot herself is wearing. They may not like the sexy butt cheeks hanging out style. Now, the good news is that the suit that she herself is actually wearing is actually going to be replaced with whatever your character is wearing at the time. So if we take a look at some of the other skins here, as you can see, we've got a futuristic police-inspired G-suit. We've got a red one with a scientific coat. Then we've got some plain clothing that we can wear there. We've got a bunny suit. So whatever your character is wearing is what is going to be displayed when you are wearing your light frame. And that's basically one of the things that, as we go back, is one of the rules that the light frame needs to follow, that the pilot is always exposed. So if you don't like the design that she is wearing, well, you can change it around. Now, we did get another skin revealed to us, another light skin, which is from one of the other companies. And as you can see, when we compare it to the basic one, this one has a lot more... It's a lot more streamlined, and that's because this one is designed by a company that used to make racing frames, according to what they were told. So think more sleek. So if the base unit is like a Range Rover or like a Humvee Jeep, then this is like an armored Lamborghini. That's kind of what they're going with here. And looking at this one, once again, the arm units are stuck to the arms, which I don't like, so we could move those over to the shoulders. They seem to have some rockets attached to them on the back, like everyone does, but this one seems to... yeah, it's definitely a lot more slick. But when it comes to aesthetics, it definitely works. And there you have it, the current light frame concept art that is probably now set in stone for Em8er. Now, I do have my own gripes with it. You may have your own, so if you do, share them in the comments. And we will see you next time when we talk about the medium frame. So, later.